So picture a fairly ordinary morning in your house. It's early, the living room is completely quiet, and, the sun is just starting to come up.
A nice, peaceful start to the day.
Exactly. You walk in, and on the sofa, there is a shape hidden under a fleece blanket. Honestly, you would barely notice it if you didn't already know it was there.
Just totally buried.
Right. There is just this single long nose poking out, completely still. You make your coffee, maybe check your phone, and eventually that shape stretches, steps lightly onto the floor, and walks over to sit by the back door.
It doesn't bark, right?
No, it doesn't bark at all. It doesn't scratch at the glass or demand attention loudly. It just waits in total silence.
It's an incredibly peaceful image. I mean, it sets a tone for the morning that feels almost meditative, really.
It does. But here is where that peace entirely shatters. Because you take this exact same quiet animal outside, and the moment you cross the threshold, the entire physical structure of the dog transforms.
Oh, yeah, it's night and day.
It really is. The posture snaps upright, the muscles tense, the eyes just lock onto the horizon, and then, say, a squirrel darts across the grass 200 yards away. You watch this dog transform into a guided missile.
A literal missile, yeah.
And later, when you let this dog loose in a secure, fenced space, it unleashes this explosive burst of speed hitting 40 miles per hour. It genuinely seems physically impossible for the creature that was just snoring under a blanket an hour earlier.
It's the ultimate paradox.
Right. So today, our mission on this deep dive is to dig through a fascinating stack of source material to unpack this paradox of the Whippet. Because looking at this data, I keep coming back to a very specific image.
What's that?
Well, it feels exactly like having a high-end carbon fiber racing machine parked right in the middle of your living room. It looks sleek, it's quiet, it's beautifully designed, but you know exactly the kind of terrifying horsepower lurking under the hood.
That analogy captures the essence of this breed perfectly. I mean, living with a Whippet requires you to internalize a really profound psychological contrast.
2 dogs in 1.
Exactly. You are essentially managing 2 different animals in one body. You have the sofa and you have the sprint. You have the soft blanket and, well, you have the raw, unadulterated chase instinct.
So you can't just pick one half to love.
No, not at all. To succeed with this breed, you cannot just fall in love with the sports car when it's parked. And you can't just love the thrill of it on the track. You have to become an expert at managing the transition between the two.
Let's start by looking at that parked car then, because realistically, the living room is where you and the dog are going to spend the vast majority of your time.
Right.
And the data we have highlights that Whippets are famous for their indoor calm. They are absolute masters of energy conservation.
You really are. They gravitate toward the softest bed in the house. They'll gently follow you from room to room.
Yeah, they simply don't possess that constant buzzing underfoot anxiety that you might see in, a working breed, a collie or a spaniel.
Well, that calm is rooted directly in their biology. Because they are sprinters, they're not endurance runners.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. An endurance dog needs a slow, steady burn of energy throughout the day, which can easily translate to pacing or restlessness indoors. But a sprinter's body is designed to hoard energy until the exact moment it needs to explode.
So indoors, they're basically charging their batteries.
Exactly. Their biological imperative indoors is just to rest, recover, and conserve.
If they are biologically programmed to hoard energy indoors, that brings up an interesting living situation. We see claims in the sources that this indoor calm makes them phenomenal apartment dogs.
Yes, you see that a lot.
But, if I'm listening to this in a tiny 5th-floor apartment in a crowded city, my immediate reaction is serious skepticism. Wait, so I can just keep this racing dog, a creature built for 40-mile-per-hour sprints, in a tiny apartment? Isn't that cruel or restrictive?
It sounds completely counterintuitive on the surface, I know. But if we dig into the psychology of how dogs interact with space, the physical square footage of your home is largely irrelevant to them.
Really? So a Whippet doesn't need a sprawling mansion?
Not at all. What it desperately needs is a plan.
So the absence of a backyard isn't the deal breaker here?
No. The real trap is assuming a large backyard equals a fulfilled dog. I mean, you could have a 2-acre yard, but if you just open the back door, let the dog out, and hope it entertains itself, you are failing the dog.
Because they won't just run around on their own.
Right. They don't typically run laps by themselves just for the fun of it. They run to chase something. So if you live in an apartment, the dog's physical needs don't vanish. You just have to be incredibly deliberate about meeting them.
Which means what, practically speaking?
That means structured walks, mental enrichment, and crucially, access to a secure, fenced area somewhere in your neighborhood where they can unleash that sprint safely.
Okay, but there is also the sensory aspect of apartment living to consider. We are talking about a dog with incredibly acute senses, right? A busy apartment building is a sensory minefield.
Oh, totally. It's overwhelming. You are dealing with slamming doors down the hall, the mechanical hum of elevators, unpredictable encounters with neighbors, and tight lobbies.
Not to mention city traffic the second you step outside.
Exactly. A dog bred to scan open fields for subtle movements can become easily overwhelmed by that urban claustrophobia. You have to actively and gradually desensitize them to that environment.
You can't just drop a rural hunting breed into a concrete jungle and expect them to adapt on their own.
No, their nervous system won't naturally adapt without your help.
So for anyone evaluating their own living situation right now, this is really the ultimate litmus test. Are you relying on the architecture of your house to act as a babysitter?
Which doesn't work.
Right. Or do you actually have a concrete daily routine for their physical and mental exhaustion? Because that beautiful, peaceful indoor calm we talked about, it only exists as a byproduct.
Yes, that is such an important distinction.
You only earn the sleepy dog on the couch if you successfully manage the chaotic dog outside.
That is the fundamental transaction of owning a Sighthound. The calm is earned.
Well, if the calm is earned outside, we need to dissect what happens when that biological engine actually turns on. Because the concept of the off-leash dream is something so many potential dog owners hold on to, you know?
The off-leash dream, yeah. It's a powerful image.
It is. You picture walking through a beautiful open nature reserve, your dog is happily trotting by your side, looking up at you for direction, completely engaged. But the research flashes massive red warning lights about trying to live out this fantasy with a Whippet.
Massive warning lights. It is the single most dangerous fantasy a Whippet owner can have.
Wow.
Most dangerous.
Without a doubt. When we talk about their outdoor reality, we're talking about a collision of intense prey drive, breathtaking physical speed, and modern world hazards.
So to understand why it's so dangerous, we have to look at the visual mechanics of a Sighthound. How is their brain processing the environment differently than, say, a golden retriever?
Well, a golden retriever was bred to work in tandem with a human, right? Looking back for cues, retrieving fallen game, staying close. Their brain literally rewards them for handler focus.
But Whippets are Sighthounds. Exactly. They were engineered for a completely different task. They have a wider field of vision up to 270 degrees and an incredibly high concentration of retinal ganglion cells that make them hypersensitive to motion.
So they see everything.
Everything. And when they spot a rabbit in the distance, their brain floods with adrenaline and dopamine. The predatory motor sequence just takes over completely.
So it's like a switch flips. No matter how much they love me, if they see a rabbit, their brain just goes to voicemail.
That is a perfect way to phrase it. Yes, they go to voicemail. The human at the end of the leash ceases to exist in that moment. And this leads to perhaps the most critical takeaway from the sources for any potential owner.
Which is?
Love does not cancel prey drive.
Oof. That is a harsh reality to accept. I mean, we want to believe that if we bond deeply enough with an animal, our relationship will override their baser instincts.
It's a very human way to view the relationship, sure, but it's biologically flawed. Those two truths exist simultaneously in the dog's brain.
So they can love you and still run away.
Absolutely. A Whippet can be utterly devoted to you. They can be your shadow inside the house, leaning against your leg, soaking up your affection. But they will still take off after a squirrel and run directly into a busy intersection without a second thought.
Just because it moved.
Right. Expecting them to suppress centuries of specialized breeding just because they like you is asking them to be a completely different animal.
Okay. But if their brain goes completely offline when they see a target, how do you ever let them run? You mentioned earlier that they need that explosive sprint to be calm indoors.
You provide freedom, but only within engineered boundaries.
Engineered boundaries, meaning fences.
Yes, freedom means high fences that have been physically checked for holes. It means locked gates. It means never relying purely on hope or on a recall command that has only been perfected in your quiet living room.
Because a recall command in the living room doesn't count outside.
Exactly. A recall command tested without the presence of prey is essentially an untested command.
Man, that level of constant vigilance sounds exhausting. And I assume it doesn't just stop at the park. If their brain is hardwired to react to sudden movement, what happens when you bring them back indoors?
That's a great question.
Like if I have a toddler who suddenly decides to sprint down the hallway shrieking, does that same chase instinct kick in inside the house?
It absolutely can, and this is where family dynamics require really strict management. Whippets are remarkably gentle dogs by nature, but the predatory instinct is triggered by the mechanics of motion, not the identity of the target.
So they don't care that it's a kid.
Right. If a child suddenly bolts, the Whippet's brain just registers a fast-moving object retreating from them. It triggers the chase sequence.
Wait, are we talking about aggression here? Will they attack a child?
Not malicious aggression, no. It's an automatic reflex. But a 40-pound dog accelerating into a toddler because of a reflex is still a dangerous collision.
Yeah, that could really hurt a kid.
Exactly. This is why a household with a Whippet requires rigid rules for children.
The parameters in the source material are very strict. No grabbing, no chasing the dog for fun, no rough hugs, and no pulling. But there's one rule that stands out as absolutely vital, and that's the protected rest space.
Yes, the rest space.
If the dog is on its bed, the dog is entirely off limits.
That goes right back to their need for energy conservation. Their resting space has to be a sanctuary. And, this fragility isn't just about how kids interact with them. It extends heavily to how they interact with other animals, too.
Because of their physical build?
Right. Because they lack thick fur and heavy body fat, their skin is incredibly thin. It's essentially stretched tight over muscle and bone.
Like the carbon fiber bike, any impact is going to do structural damage.
Precisely. This is why traditional, chaotic dog parks are often a terrible idea for Whippets.
Too rough.
Way too rough. A larger, heavy dog, like a Labrador or a Boxer, often plays by wrestling or body slamming. That kind of blunt force play can easily cause severe lacerations or joint injuries to a Whippet. They need to socialize with dogs that have a similar, lighter, chase-based play style.
Okay, let's push this interspecies dynamic a bit further. If the motion trigger is so deeply ingrained, what about a household cat?
Ah, the cat question.
Let's say I bring a Whippet puppy home, and I raise it meticulously alongside my indoor cat. Surely, through pure exposure, they will categorize the cat as family and never chase it.
Well, the psychology of how dogs categorize other animals is fascinating here because it is highly dependent on spatial context and velocity.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning, yes, many Whippets can and do live peacefully with known indoor cats, provided there are careful introductions and constant management. But you have to understand how compartmentalized a dog's brain is.
So they view the same animal differently depending on the room?
Depending on the environment and the action. The household cat, asleep on the armchair, is categorized in the dog's brain as a roommate. It is stationary, predictable, and part of the indoor architecture.
Okay, but what if it runs?
Right. If an unfamiliar cat, or sometimes even that very same indoor cat, sprints across your backyard grass, the geographic context has changed, the velocity has changed, and the animal is instantly recategorized as prey.
Oh, wow. That is wild. The brain justifies the chase just because the backdrop shifted from a rug to a lawn?
It is entirely contextual. And when it comes to smaller pets like rabbits, guinea pigs, or birds, the risk is exponential.
So they can't be roommates?
No, these animals require total physical separation. You cannot rely on supervision or a strong leave-it command. A prey animal moving erratically will trigger a Sighthound, and the dog is faster than your reaction time.
So it's not a training failure if they chase?
Not at all. Managing this isn't a failure of your training. It is just responsible ownership of a highly specialized breed.
And keeping them safe from those deeply ingrained instincts leads us directly into the physical reality of maintaining this biological machine. The physical care routine for a Whippet is specific and honestly quite counter to what many people assume about short-haired dogs.
It definitely surprises people.
We see this phrase repeated in the text. They are low grooming, but they require high observation.
Let's go back to your racing bike analogy, actually, because it fits their physical maintenance perfectly.
Right. So they're like a high-performance racing bike. You don't need to take it and scrub it down with soap every single day. You aren't paying for expensive blowouts or dealing with matted fur.
No, the grooming is easy.
But you absolutely better be checking the tire pressure, inspecting the gears, and oiling the chain after every single ride.
Because the margins for error are so small. With a Whippet, you aren't brushing them for an hour, but you are performing microscopic physical inspections.
Like what?
Well, you are checking their paw pads for micro tears after a sprint. You are feeling their joints. You are scanning that incredibly thin, unpadded skin for grass seeds or minor scrapes that could easily become infected.
And that lack of padding brings up a massive element of their daily management, the weather. Because they have virtually no subcutaneous fat and only a single thin layer of fur, their thermoregulation is highly compromised, right?
Highly compromised, yes.
The data is so clear on this. A Whippet's winter coat is vital equipment, not a fashion statement.
This is a real point of friction for many new owners who feel, I don't know, self-conscious putting clothes on a dog.
Like they're treating it like a doll.
Exactly. But you have to look at the physics of their body. To hit those incredible speeds, breeders spend centuries stripping away every ounce of unnecessary weight. That meant eliminating heavy protective fat and thick, double-layered coats.
Leaving them aerodynamic but freezing.
Right. You are left with an incredibly aerodynamic frame, but the biological trade-off is zero natural insulation.
Which means if it's freezing or windy or raining, their core temperature drops rapidly. And there's a really dangerous misconception out there regarding how to fix this.
Yes, the feeding myth.
Right. Some owners think, my dog is shivering, I should just feed them more so they bulk up and build some natural insulation.
And that is one of the most destructive things you can do to a Sighthound.
Why is it so bad?
Because their skeletal structure and their joints are engineered to carry a very specific lightweight load. If you add extra weight to a frame that isn't designed to support it, you aren't keeping them warm. You are actively destroying their joints.
So no extra kibble. What's the solution?
The solution to cold sensitivity is external warmth. High-quality fleece coats, waterproof jackets, and thick blankets.
And this need for physical comfort isn't just a physical necessity, is it? It bleeds into their psychology, especially when traveling or being left alone.
Yes, they do not handle physical discomfort well at all.
So if you are taking them to a new environment, you need to bring familiar, warm bedding. And if they are showing distress when left alone, it requires methodical, often professional behavior modification. You can't just lock a sensitive, under-insulated dog in a cold room and expect them to, just cry it out and toughen up.
No, the physical fragility and the psychological sensitivity are intimately linked. You are acting as the support system for a highly specialized athlete here.
It adds up, doesn't it?
It really does. When you add up the cost of custom-fit winter coats, secure martingale collars that won't slip over their narrow heads, access to safe running fields, and premium nutrition to fuel those muscles, the idea that a short-haired dog is automatically a low-cost dog completely evaporates.
Which brings us to the ultimate question for the listener. If you are weighing the need for specialized clothing, the absolute requirement for enclosed running spaces, the constant management of a lethal prey drive, and the strict rules for kids and pets.
There's a lot to weigh.
It is. How do you know if you're actually the right fit for this animal?
The best way to answer that is to look at the daily rhythm required to keep this dog balanced. It's a highly structured 24 hours.
Walk us through that structure. If I do everything right, what does my day actually look like?
Well, your day starts with a morning outing, a structured walk where they can take in sensory information safely on a leash. This is followed by a measured meal to maintain that critical weight balance we talked about.
Then back to the sofa.
Exactly. For the next several hours, the dog's primary job is resting, usually buried entirely under a blanket on your sofa. You might integrate some short mental training sessions to tire out their brain, but mostly they rest.
And then the afternoon.
Midday requires another check-in. Then you arrive at the crucial pressure release valve, a visit to a secure, high-fenced area where they can unleash that sprint, or a long, mentally stimulating safari walk.
Followed immediately by the mechanic's inspection, checking the pads, checking the skin.
Precisely. Then an evening meal, routine dental care, because Sighthounds can be prone to teeth issues, and returning to a warm, comfortable bed.
It sounds like a full-time job.
It is a systems-based approach to ownership. Many owners actually rely on apps to track this rhythm, logging exercise times, weight fluctuations, and minor skin scrapes to ensure nothing slips through the cracks.
So synthesizing all of this, the initial question of whether a Whippet is an easy or difficult breed to live with feels entirely inadequate.
Very inadequate.
Because the truth is, they aren't inherently easy, and they aren't inherently hard. They are just incredibly specific.
Specific is the exact right word. They are a magnificent fit for someone who wants a quiet, gentle presence in their home and who respects the dog's need for profound warmth and occasional explosive velocity.
But they are a terrible fit for someone who wants a rugged, all-weather hiking companion, or someone who expects a dog that will reliably ignore wildlife on a nature trail.
Oh, absolutely. Or someone who views fences, leashes, and dog coats as optional accessories rather than mandatory life-saving equipment.
Because if you don't manage it,
If you're not willing to manage the environment will eventually manage the dog, usually with disastrous results. The easy, peaceful companion on your sofa is the reward you get for taking their outdoor reality seriously.
So if you are considering bringing a Whippet into your life, you have to embrace the paradox. You have to respect the prey drive, acknowledging that no amount of affection will erase centuries of genetic hardwiring.
Right, love won't fix it.
Exactly. You have to understand the physics of their body, treating their coats and soft beds as vital equipment for a specialized athlete. And most importantly, you have to be prepared to actively manage the transition between the sofa and the sprint.
And, if you look closely at that transition, it actually reveals a deeply philosophical question about our relationship with dogs in the modern world.
Wait, where does the philosophy come in?
Well, think about the evolutionary arc of these animals. For hundreds of years, humans acted as the architects of their biology. We systematically bred these sighthounds to be the ultimate biological hunting machines, stripping away their body fat, extending their field of vision, and hardwiring their brains to experience intense euphoria upon chasing prey.
We basically built a predator from scratch.
Exactly. We built a creature optimized entirely for the open horizon and the pursuit of motion. Yet today, our modern urban lives require them to spend 95% of their existence actively suppressing those exact traits just to fit into our quiet living rooms and apartment buildings.
So we engineered a missile, and now we're asking it to be a throw pillow.
That's exactly it. And it forces us to ask, when we bring such a highly specialized, historically fine-tuned breed into our modern homes, who is really adapting to whom? Are we genuinely providing them with a fulfilling life that honors their biology? Or are we, in many ways, just asking them to quietly tolerate ours?
Wow. That is a staggering thought to end on, because the next time you walk into a quiet room and see that barely noticeable shape hidden under a fleece blanket with just a single nose poking out, well, you won't just see a sleepy dog. You will know exactly how much wild historical power is quietly waiting underneath. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.